What happens when the ultimate weapon builder is forced to become the ultimate hero? And what price does a man pay when his genius saves his life, but traps him inside his own technology? Tony Stark is arguably Marvel's most recognizable icon, well, maybe outside of Spider-Man, and a founding Avenger, whose story is a paradox, a man seeking freedom who voluntarily lives inside an armored cage. Today we're diving into that brilliant, broken, and perpetually evolving history of Iron Man, uncovering the trauma that forged him and the echo of guilt that still drives him every day. Welcome back to this episode of Marvel Echoes Resonance. I'm Will, and today we're going beyond the trivia to explore how a hero's origin story is the foundation of their entire legacy. We've talked about John Walker and the paradox of patriotism and Peter Parker and the burden of guilt. Now we'll turn attention to the armored figure who more than any other has always represented the future, Tony Stark. For new readers coming in from the movies, the basics are well known: genius, billionaire, philanthropist, but the comic origin is a little sharper, a little more steeped in the anxieties from the 1960s. Iron Man first appeared in Tales of Suspense number 39 back in 1963. The context here is key. This is the heart of the Cold War. Marvel's mission was to take the least sympathetic figure possible, an arrogant industrialist and arms dealer, and make the readers love him. Well, and they did. Tony Stark, brilliant since childhood, a true prodigy who was practically a Marvel Universe Bruce Wayne, only with a little bit more flair, was performing a weapons demonstration near a war zone. Regardless of the location, the result is the same: tragedy. Tony is ambushed, he steps on a booby trap, and shrapnel lodges near his heart. He's captured by the enemy, and his captors offer him a deal. That's classic supervillain, manipulation. Build us a super weapon, and we'll perform the surgery to save your life. They gave him days to live. Now this is where the Echo is born. Tony's not alone. He's paired with a professor, Jensen, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist. Together in the belly of the beast, they don't build the weapon their captors asked for. They build a suit of bulky, powered armor, the Mark I. This suit was designed to serve two functions. First, power a magnetic chase plate that kept the shrapnel from entering his heart, saving his life. And second, to be a weapon of escape. The price of that escape? Jensen sacrifices his life, buying Tony the precious minutes needed to power up the suit. His final words to Tony were simple, yet devastating: "Don't waste your life." Tony's life is saved by his genius, but he is fundamentally broken by his guilt. The guilt and his trauma form the core of his motivation. Unlike Spider-Man, whose guilt is about a singular inaction, Tony's guilt is about his entire career. He created the weapons that killed innocent people, and he watched his savior, Jensen, die because of his own ingenuity. The primary motivation of Iron Man is therefore guilt filtered through technological control. He can't bring Jensen back, so he vows to only use his genius for good. But his secondary, much darker motivation is this: he must constantly upgrade and innovate, because if he stops, the shrapnel will kill him. If he fails to innovate, he fails to control the very thing keeping him alive. The armor isn't just a suit, it's a pacemaker, a cage. He voluntarily locks himself inside because outside of it, he's weak, vulnerable, and ultimately doomed. This is the paradox of Iron Man. This psychological foundation is what made his later story so compelling. Two early arcs stand out as pure, essential Tony Stark lore, and chronologically the first one is perhaps the most famous. This brings us to the Demon in the Bottle, from Iron Man 120 through 128 back in 79. And a character who embodies control, the most devastating thing that can happen is losing it. After a series of crushing failures, Tony succumbs to the pressure, and his long-running alcohol dependencies become acute. This arc was revolutionary. It wasn't an alien invasion, it was a character staring at his own addiction. It humanized the Golden Avenger in a way no cosmic battle ever could, cementing the idea that the man inside the armor was far more vulnerable and far more heroic than the machine itself. Following that era of personal struggle, the guilt manifests externally in Armor Wars, which ran from Iron Man 225 to 232 in 87. The moment Tony realizes his technology has been stolen and weaponized, his own designs are now killing people around the globe. Again. he snaps. He doesn't go to the Avengers. He goes on a self-destructive global rampage to destroy every single piece of his stolen tech, even if it means fighting Captain America and declaring war on the US government. It is pure, unadulterated guilt driving him to the edge, forcing him to accept responsibility for the ripple effects of his inventions. So with all the classic stuff behind him, what happened next? Here are the highlights that you need to get you maybe up to date on the Armored Warrior's legacy. So Iron Man narrative underwent two massive seismic shifts that completely reshaped his legacy for new readers, particularly those coming in from the MCU. First, we had Extremis in Iron Man Volume 4, Issues 1 through 6 in 2005. This was written by Warren Ellis, and it serves as the definitive modern origin or retelling, streamlining his story and introducing the concept of biomechanical augmentation. Tony basically infects himself with a techno-organic virus, which allowed him to store the armor's underneath sheath inside of his own body. His mind is now directly connected to the technology, and he could summon the suit mentally. This was the moment Tony Stark truly became the machine, and it served as the core blueprint for his big screen portrayal. The second shift was Civil War in 2006 by Mark Miller. Now, remember how we talked about Tony's core motivation being control and his constant feeling of guilt over the power he creates. Well, after the tragic events that kicks off the Civil War, Tony takes the most controversial stand in his career. He becomes the face of the Superhuman Registration Act. He works with the US government to force every powered person to register their identity, essentially turning superheroes into government agents. This act was entirely driven by his deep-seated need to control the ripple effects of superhuman power, but in an instant turned him into an antagonist. Tony found himself on the opposite side of his oldest friend, Captain America, in a moral and physical battle that shattered the Avengers and reshaped the political landscape of the Marvel Universe for years. Following this, Tony was named the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is the global organization, of course, that manages superhuman affairs. For a man obsessed with control and haunted by guilt, this was the ultimate position of authority. He was tasked with regulating the world's power, but his tenure was marked by disastrous mistakes, including leading a global invasion force into Skrull space and unwittingly empowering Norman Osborn. In recent years, the echoes of Tony Stark's trauma has moved from a physical shrapnel and alcoholism to an existential identity. During a period following a major event, Tony's morality flipped, and he became the superior Iron Man. Using his Extremis virus to enhance his mind, he adopted an unbelievably arrogant, capitalistic, and self-serving persona. It was a terrifying look at what Tony Stark could be like if he completely suppressed his guilt and embraced his worst impulses. The core theme: what does it mean to be a good person when you can literally manipulate the world around you? This was followed by Dan Slott's run on Tony Stark Iron Man, which returned to his identity as a technological philosopher. This series delved into the ethics of artificial intelligence, focused on questions like, is Iron Man the ultimate evolution of humanity, or a dangerous step toward the destruction of what makes us human? It was a very cerebral return to form, exploring the limits of technology and the definition of life and self. So, where's Tony Stark now? Well, he currently finds himself in the current line-wide status quo known as From the Ashes. Following the massive shakeups of the last few years, Tony is back to his roots, but with a new layer of grounded personal struggle. He has been operating with a renewed focus on his core mission, using his technology to solve problems on a human scale. He is often called upon by the Avengers to provide necessary tech to encounter emerging threats, and he remains the cornerstone of the superhuman community's logistical and technological infrastructure. Confirmed appearances for the next couple years shows Tony is central to the ongoing efforts to rebuild the Marvel Universe after multiple large-scale attacks. He is slated to be a major player in the upcoming Iron Man 2026 event, which promises a return to the classic themes of man versus machine and his technological arsenal being pushed to its absolute breaking point against new, unified technological threats. It appears the guilt-driven genius will once again be tasked with saving the world, even if it costs him everything. So the story of Iron Man is the story of a man fighting a technological war against his own morality. He created the very thing that saved him, but he must constantly fear that same genius. So I'll leave you with this question. Do you think Tony Stark's armor gives him freedom? Or is it merely a golden cage that keeps him perpetually trapped by his own trauma and guilt? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for listening to this episode of Marvel Echoes Resonance. If you enjoyed the deep dive into the legacy of Tony Stark, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of our daily episodes. Leaving a like and a comment definitely helps the channel grow, and we love reading your thoughts down in the comments. And for more content, including full deep dives, new reader introductory guides, and visual infographics, make sure you visit our website in the links below. Until next time, true believers, make mine Marvel.